I've got a bit of a roundup for you today, as there seems to be lots of little things happening in the tech world. First of which regarding Vega, the next regarding the 1080 Ti, and finally, of course, Ryzen. It seems that a day just isn't complete without more Ryzen news coming on that particular day, and I'm not complaining. Ryzen is looking all the more interesting with each passing piece of news. So, let's start with Vega, as this is a fairly small nugget, but still one that points to a good future for Vega. And according to the sources of bitsandchips.it, almost 80% of the driver team over at AMD is hard at work on Vega drivers. Basically, this means that they're working to offer a good product out of the box from the very start, something that they have been doing with Polaris, of course, and it does mean this particular strategy, of course, by that I mean that AMD are now ahead of Nvidia when it comes to the driver department, and should mean that when you get your Vega GPU, it's all going to be set. You're going to have amazing drivers from the start, and it's going to be pretty nice. Moving swiftly on, however, to the 1080 Ti, before I continue, the source for this information is a Swedish website by the name of nordichardware.se. Now, we'll link the source in the description below, and I suggest you read it if you do indeed speak or read Swedish, but I am of course using good old Google Translate to tell me what it says, so perhaps there'll be some inaccuracies, but just take that with a pinch of salt. The source is there for anyone who wants to give it a bash. So there is quite a lot of information on this particular webpage, but I want to focus on a few key things, the first of which is actually regarding that, according to their sources, which is a manufacturer in Taiwan, the cards are in production and they will be launched next month, which is actually pretty nice. And I'm going to quote a little bit from this article here. I'm going to just read it as it's supposed to read. Obviously, it's a little bit broken given that it's in Google Translate. Again, the source is below. But it says, quote, "Information from Taiwanese graphics card makers confirms that a launch of the 1080 Ti is only a month away. Graphics card manufacturers have already launched production of its new graphics card and have internally just demonstrated its new models. An exact launch date is said not to be completely nailed down, but at the time of writing, things are pointing towards the last week of March, probably between the 20th to the 23rd. Now, of course, we've had a few specifications and so on leak for the 1080 Ti, but unfortunately, the sources of nordichardware.se couldn't actually confirm these earlier specifications. But we do know that it is equipped with GP102, and it has fewer CUDA cores and a smaller amount of memory than the Titan X, but higher frequencies that should put it, at least on not too uneven footing with the Titan X. Now, the price tag is also not completely set in stone yet, and they are saying that it's probably a price between 7,500 to 9,000 krona. And again, this is rough calculation based on current exchange rates, but that puts it between £675 to £810, so £650 to £800 basically, which makes sense for Nvidia's pricing when it comes to their high-end graphics cards. So, there you have it, the latest on the 1080 Ti. Once again, that source is linked below for those of you who wish to give it a bash yourselves. Now finally, moving on to Ryzen, as we have a report from Sweetclockers, and according to them, the line of AMD Ryzen processors will be coming out on March the 2nd. And according to them, the exact launch timings are 4 o'clock CET, which is of course Central European Time, which is 7 AM Pacific Standard Time. There's going to be a full range of Ryzen processors on offer, but the first round of AM4 motherboards are only going to include the X370 and B350 chipsets base products. And just to refresh your memory, the Ryzen series lineup is the 7-1800X, which of course is the most powerful. We have the Ryzen 7 Pro 1800, the 1700X and the 1700, and the Pro 1700. That's not all, of course, that's just the 7 series of Ryzen CPUs. We also, of course, have the 5 series and the 3 series still, but we have the 5 1600X, Pro 1600, 1500, Pro 5 1500, 1400X. You kind of get where this is going. There's Pro 1400, 1300, Pro 1300, and then with the 3 series we have 1200X, 1200, 1100, and Pro 1100. Of course, if you want any more information on any of these particular CPUs, well, you have a very wide library of Ryzen videos to enjoy, my good friends, as we have been discussing an awful lot about Ryzen over the last couple of weeks, as leaks and news have just been like an endless tide of information, which is quite lovely, to be honest, because, you know, up until now we didn't know a huge amount about it. Of course, we very much know a lot about it now. So, lots of interesting stuff on offer today. I would say Ryzen is probably the most interesting. That is a fairly early launch, perhaps a little bit earlier than some expected, but still the 1080 Ti could potentially be interesting. Oh, and speaking of, one very quick thing that I forgot to mention regarding the 1080 Ti is that it's actually going to be about 2 to 3 months prior to the release of Vega. So there's two potentialities here with what Nvidia is actually planning. Either they're trying to use it to counter Vega 10, which of course is the high end, Vega 11 being the low end. A little bit confusing, the higher number being the low end, but just roll with it. Or Vega is faster and they know it, so they're just trying to get the most out of Pascal while they can. It's entirely possible that it's either, to be honest, given that we don't know exactly what's going on with Vega. But place your bets on which one it is. Are they running scared, or are they just comfortable and trying to get a lead? Love to hear some thoughts from you guys on everything discussed here. The bitsandchips.it and the Nordic Hardware links will be in the description below for your perusal, and of course the Sweet Clockers one as well. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.